That's hard for the streets. Hard for the streets.
You are now catching the ChillBuzz.
Fire.
What's up, people? This is DJ Luca Knight from ChillBuzz Radio out of New York City, New York, USA, planet Earth. And I'm here with Veronica from Community Cactus, and we're basically just going over different things about USA and Canada. We've been talking about the presidential election and how all that's going on over here. And I mean, if you live on this planet, you pretty much know because we're the center of it. Everything, spotlight's always on us. But I feel like the reason the media attacks Trump so much is because he's the only one who's not corrupt, and they want him out because they can't buy him, you know. And I've never been into politics, but
you don't think he's corrupt? I don't have that view at all. I don't see that at all. I mean, what we hear up here about Trump is that he's like hugely corrupt. I mean, he's a freaking racist. The things that he said publicly is just terrible.
Like what?
I mean, it's like, what is it? Well, first you got to build the wall because you got to keep the Mexicans out, which we don't understand what the hell the point of that is. They're good workers and they're people. And then there's the Muslims. He's anti-Muslim, which is like a huge population in the world. And he's said that publicly. He has no problem with treating women like they're nothing. And there's like literally public record of him sitting there and stating that, you know, all of these women in politics are horrible people. And then the woman who was involved with the child scandal, he's like, oh, you know, she's a nice person. I feel bad for her. And it's like the woman who's like raping children, you feel bad for. And the women who have like Harvard education that are in politics, even if they're not on your party, you condemn and call hateful things. I mean, he's just, to me, he's like the most corrupt person. He hides his taxes. He paid $700 in taxes.
It is actually
oh God.
That's the thing. Like, people are kind of blind of that, and I was on board with everyone else. I mean, I think Trump is actually a good president, but he's a piece of shit as a person, and that counts as being a president because the person you are means a lot. Basically, rating the type of person you are. You know, like, you can't. That's why, regardless if Obama didn't really live up to everything he promised to, he had a good attitude. He was likable. I feel like if Trump did that same projection of just being likable, wanting to be liked, not piss people off, he would be one of the best presidents ever. But just the fact that he's unlikable and he says all this stuff, I don't really think he means the worst intention behind it. I don't think he's racist. The whole Mexican thing, it's like, it's just simply an immigration thing. And they mix up what he says. The media really twists everything up, because for anyone who really digs deep into what's going on with Trump and Biden right now, Biden is really the piece of shit. Trump is a piece of shit, but he is actually less of a piece of shit than Biden, and he's going to be a lot more effective. And it's like people, like, he just made peace in the Middle East with Israel and the Arabs and like all this stuff. Like, yeah, he said the thing about not having Muslims, trying to ban Muslims, but that's because they're coming over here doing all this terrorist shit, blowing people up, just their ideology. And sometimes you need to put a ban on that so that they learn, you know, tighten things up, get strict on how to let people in and out or whatever. As far as the Mexican thing goes, like, he was mainly aiming towards gang members and people taking advantage of this country. And as far as the woman thing goes, I mean, he's only like that whole grabber pussy, like he's only human. He apologized for that. He knew he was wrong. It was locker talk, you know. He didn't he was just talking in the privacy of him and some guy talking like behind the scenes, and he wasn't.
So you think it's a double standard that guy lost his job and he became president?
Yeah,
the person he was talking with. Like, there's a definite double standard.
He's wrong in many ways, but when it comes down to making the decision, like, I'm not voting because I was gonna vote for Kanye West, but that's not happening anymore. But I can't involve myself in it because I feel like Trump is gonna win no matter what. Too many people know the good he can do, and no one knows any good that Biden could do. Like, if Andrew Yang or someone, like, right now I want Andrew Yang to be the next president. That's what I feel like, because if he was still in the race when this pandemic hit and everyone knew his idea of universal base income was going to be like a home run, he would be president. He would be becoming president right now, because he's basically like a Democratic version of Trump. He's like a businessman, he's not a standard politician. And I feel like, yeah, he's like the good side to Trump, like what Trump could be, but he just likes being so offensive,
It's funny because I feel like we do have a very different view of obviously being in a different country and what they show us like in the media. And I think what's interesting is you pointed out about the Muslim, and I have to touch on that because I have to touch on that. And it's, there's only 1%. Like, it's like saying, it's like lumping everybody in the US as a certain person. And that's what he's doing with Muslims. And he's lumping all of them together with a very, very small group of them. And I feel like that's where the problem lies, is that his words have so much power and so much influence because of the role that he's in, being the leader of one of the biggest countries, biggest economical, forces in the world. So by not understanding the power of those hateful words to people, he's really spreading a lot of mistruths, because you can't lump all of one group into the smaller subset that is terrorists. And the US has enough homegrown terrorists that you could classify the US as the same thing. I mean, if you really want to look at it, the Oklahoma City bomber was a US citizen. He was whiter than white. He wasn't a terrorist from of a Muslim background. So I feel like that's the part that we look at and go, he's uneducated, so he shouldn't be running this superpower.
Who should, though? I mean, I agree. Like, it should be someone better, but no one else better can step up. And if Joe Biden is the best they got, I'm sorry, I just don't trust him running the country. I'd rather have someone who's morally scum, but is actually capable of getting us through the next 4 years. If Biden gets elected, he's going to retire early. Kamala Harris is going to take over, and things are going to fall apart because she's.
And why do you think that is?
She's
like, I'm just curious, because our what we see is we're getting a different, I think, just media spin, so we don't really see all of it.
Of course. And the media, like, that's like a big problem right now, like, which is why so many people feel obligated to spread this knowledge, because the media is hiding what is actually the truth. And you wouldn't know that, because I was watching Joe Rogan Experience one day, and like they were talking about Trump, and they said that I think he was talking about Macaulay Culkin actually, and they mentioned how in Canada they cut Trump out of the hotel scene in Home Alone 2, I think. Yeah, Home Alone 2, New York.
Oh, did they?
When they aired that in Canada, they completely eliminate the Trump scene. Yeah,
that's funny.
So it's like I
actually didn't know that. Now I want to go and check.
I kind of already knew that he was kind of being made look bad out there. But if you look just a month ago, the leader of Israel said, Trump, you are basically you are a hero to everyone in Israel at the White House. This guy said that. So they hide all the good things because there is many positive things, but they just want him out because he's not corrupt. And a lot of people who don't really know wouldn't know until they dig into it, you know? And yeah, I mean, it's watch the debate tonight, you know, like just after hearing what I said.
Well, you didn't hear anything. Last time all they did was argue.
Yeah, it was pretty pathetic, but I think he learned how he fucked up because he lost that debate. He fucked up after that debate. That debate was so bad, I wanted to vote for Biden after. Like, I actually recorded my live reaction just to see how it would go. But it was so bad, I wanted to literally like vote for Biden right after, you know. I just heard your what's it called? The episode 11 you put out about like the whole lying thing and all that.
Let's be honest, you know, that was it's kind of funny because that's actually just based on, you know, I'm in my late 30s and just reflecting. I feel like during the pandemic, a big part of time and, you know, things is thoughts and like reflecting on the past and relationships and different things, right? And it's that kind of, I saw the meme and it just went, yeah, that's like, I feel like I get pegged an asshole a lot. And I think that's from being too honest. Like, I feel like people don't like honesty, or like our little healthy debate about Trump versus like your perception and my perception. Who cares? We can have difference of opinion, but people don't like to have a difference of opinion.
The more you know me, the more you'll see the truth. And I'm actually a Democrat. And a lot of Democrats are kind of opening their eyes right now. And I'm telling you, look it up. Look it up. You're going to be surprised. But I feel like everyone's entitled to their opinion, but everyone should know the facts at the end of the day, you know? And yeah, Biden is actually less trustworthy. Like, Trump is just in your face, like, fuck everyone. So that's why, like, he has the image of being the evil one, and he kind of carries himself that way, so he does it to himself, but no one's perfect. That's the thing.
That's true. That is true. And I mean, politicians in general aren't the greatest when it comes to just, I don't know. I mean, what kind of politician can you trust, right? In the end of the day.
That's what I was gonna. Well, that's why the country elected Trump, because they feel like they could trust him. And if you notice, like a lot of the Republican, big time Republicans, who like ran for president, like people like Mitt Romney and like John McCain's wife, and like all these big time Republicans are supporting Biden. Like, everyone Biden. It just doesn't make sense. And I feel like it's because they know he's not corrupt and they just want to get him out. And if you actually look on the internet, there's like a lot of noble people with a lot of facts that could back everything up, and facts that show that the media is pushing Biden to be the fucking savior when he's just too much of a fuck up that he couldn't pull that off while it's being given to him on a platinum platter. And it basically is. That's what's going on, and he still can't handle it.
Silver platter.
Platinum platter. You know, not silver, it's platinum, because that's the president of the United States. And if you're being given that, people don't like him for him. They just like him because he's not Trump. Like, I don't understand how he got the nomination over like everyone else. Like, he's losing his mind. I mean, if you were here, you think you would not vote for Trump? You would vote for Biden? You can't. It's hard to say, right?
I don't know. You know what? I have some friends who are, and I have heard very different of opinions when it comes to that. Like, that our version of Trump isn't the version that is shared in the United States, and I think it's exactly what I kind of discussed. I can't remember if I've put it out yet, but just that how we're easily manipulated by the way that people present things to us, and we take what we're given. But like you said, you've actually got to look at the facts. And I've heard that for businesses that he's been really good in some of his policies, and that he's made some really positive changes with a lot of the business side of things. So, I mean, I've heard positives about Trump. I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't heard positive facts, because that would be a total lie. But at the end of the day, we're definitely shown a lot more of the negative than we are of the positive. And the positive you have to find. Like, that's not shared.
Now do this. Look on your own, because no one can really trust the media. So this is what I did, because I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Like, I actually looked for reasons to hate Trump. I looked for them because I didn't understand why everyone else just is like so brainwashed when they're so blind to what's really going on. And I looked for reasons to hate him. And when you look for good things about him and bad things about him, the bad things aren't as bad as they make it seem when you really find out the full story. And the good things, they don't talk about at all. And do the same thing with Trump. I mean, with Biden. Look for the good things.
Yeah.
Find anything, and look for the bad things, and you're going to find a whole encyclopedia of that.
Yeah. And you know what? It would have been nice to see younger people also. Like, I think that's also part of the problem. Like, you've got two men who are pushing 80 years old instead of like some younger, fresh meat with like a much different view of the world than two men who are gonna fall over and die. White men that are gonna fall over and die.
Sanders basically looks like a walking zombie right now, but he still had energy, you know? Like, I'd vote for him.
Yeah, he did have
over here, but just because I trust him more personally, you know? I do believe he's...
That was another interesting thing. I was really surprised that Bernie Sanders Sanders, whatever his last name is, that he didn't end up being the one running. I thought he had a really good trajectory from what we were seeing, and then all of a sudden he was gone.
Right, because the corrupt politicians who want a corrupt president are gonna do what they have to do to get Bernie out of the race. Because I felt like I could trust him. I would have voted for him.
I have a question for you that you just reminded me of. Do you guys ever hear anything about Canadian politics? Like, do you know anything about like Canada?
What's the Canadian deal going on? Do they have elections? Like, do they just bow to the Queen? Like, do they have a prime minister, right?
Oh my God, I'm so glad you got that right. I was so scared you're going to ask about our president.
The difference between a prime minister and a president.
In this case, in Canada, the prime minister is like your president. I mean, he's the head of the country. And the difference is the title, right? It's the UK has the same thing. They have a prime minister as well. And I don't know if it has to do with, because we're a part of the British, what's it called now? I'm losing the word there. Because we are under the British colony or whatever it's called, the Queen. But I mean, yeah, we have a prime minister, but he is in the position wise, he's the same as your president. So he still has our government set up a little bit differently with numbers and stuff, but we have, you know, the House of Commons and all that kind of stuff. But we have more parties too. We don't just have Democrat and Republican.
Yeah, we have more parties too, but none of them see the light of day. I actually want to, I'm just going to do this for myself by the next election. I want to, because I agree with a lot of things on both sides, and I kind of want to just propose a plan to the country what I would do if I was president. Just to do. Who knows, I might have a great idea, could pitch it to someone who's worthy of achieving that. And now I just put a great president in the White House off of my idea that was a golden idea. You know, so because I do believe that if I sit down and think for the next 4 years, I could come up with a great plan. Because right now I want to study politics because it's just so much of a shit show over there. Like, how is it over there? Like, is there corruption, conspiracies, and like what's the Canadian government? How often is the election?
I think what's really funny is our conspiracies are kind of, I think, would be almost more of amusing to you guys, because like right now, the situation that's happening is our prime minister is facing a scandal, and the scandal is around the We organization, and the We organization supports young people and getting an education. And apparently there was some funding stuff. So basically the government's funding stuff, and then his wife and some of his family members were getting money from this We organization. And it just looks really bad. So that's like our major scandal with our prime minister. But really, I mean, when you look at that, like, it's about an organization that is helping people, and there's some public speaking funds basically that they're questioning, but it's pretty basic when it comes to scandals like that. Basically he's going to say sorry and we're going to move on. We just almost went into an election, but then the NDP backed the Liberal Party and saved us from going into an election. And basically at the end of the day, our government is way more interested, from what it seems like, is trying to save money during the pandemic. So, if we weren't in this current COVID situation, they probably would have gone into an election because of some of the stuff that they find problematic with our prime minister, whose name is Justin Trudeau. And they may have done that, but they're more interested in let's not put the people through this huge cost of an election and try to keep things status quo until we get through the worst of this pandemic, now that we're heading into second phase. That being said, our elections are only 30 days. We don't have these 2-year-long out, and he doesn't do all that stuff. We don't have to do that stuff. We're not allowed to do that stuff here. It's against the law.
30 days? What do you mean by that?
30 days.
What do you mean, though?
They only go out and I believe it's 30 days now, I'm not sure, it might be 60 days. But basically, so you know how Trump goes on his campaign trail?
60 days they're prime minister for? That's how long a term is?
No. That's how long you can campaign when you're actually running for that position. So in the US, they campaign for 2 years.
Out of nowhere, just because they want to. They're like, oh, let's have an election right now. That's how it works.
Yeah, pretty much. So ours, we don't have 2 4-year terms, but you can, if the House of Commons falls, then we can go into an election. And how that generally happens is if there's a vote of non-confidence, so within the House, and you have to have, so there's 151 seats, and you have to have over 50% of them vote against confidence within the House of Commons, and then that dissolves Parliament, and then when Parliament dissolves, we go into an election. So the Prime Minister stays the Prime Minister, and he's still running, but he would then be in a campaign situation where we would be voting for either to keep him or to change to a different prime minister. And to give you context, I don't know if he's the longest running, but Jean Chrétien, who's one of our prime ministers, was a prime minister for 12 years. So you can go, there's no set, there's not only 8 years. If you're a good prime minister, you can continually be the prime minister as long as the House is voting in your favor, basically.
Hence, though, when this election sprouts out, who are they running against? Someone at the House?
So we have different parties. So there's head of each party. So Justin Trudeau is head of the Liberals, which would be the equivalent to Joe Biden. They're very much like the Democratic Party in the US. And then we have conservatives. So most of the time it's between Liberals and conservatives would be the Trump, so the Republicans. And then we have NDP, who is the New Democratic Party. And they're if you want to sum them up in the visual context, they're the union guys. They support unions. And then we have the Green Party, who you would probably like because they're pretty pro on all things green. And they've actually made some traction. They actually have a seat in the House now. And then we have like the Bloc de Québécois. So in Quebec, they kind of want to be their own country, but they can't afford to be their own country. So he never wins shit. But, pardon?
Why don't they have?
Why not?
They afford that.
Because in order to break away and be your own country, it's kind of like the whole Brexit thing. So if you ever followed what happened in England, like the financial ramifications of actually separating from Canada would mean that they would have to come up with their entire own government, their own entire like financial. They wouldn't be able to use the Canadian dollar. Like, so they'd have to start from scratch. Like you have to basically create a country out of nothing.
Have you ever been to the U.S.?
Yeah, I've been to New York City. I love New York, but Chicago, it's between New York and Chicago. I love Chicago.
What do you like about Chicago?
Pizza.
Yeah, I heard there's a lot of good house music clubs out there. I've never been out there. I actually haven't seen much of the U.S. I've been here in New York City area forever. You know,
Really? Oh, Chicago, you gotta go. I go every year. Well, not this year, unfortunately. So I go every year to Chicago. It is one of my favorite places, but I've been there so many times. And the club scene there is fantastic. I have, what happens in Chicago stays in Chicago. But we go to NeoCon. So it is a interior design, commercial designers event, and it's at the Merchandise Mart, which is one of the largest buildings in the US square footage wise, or it used to be. It's still top 10. And it's just all like interior design companies and suppliers and manufacturers and vendors. And it's a freaking shit show, and you party for like 3 days and you come home still drunk. But it's, we always go to this one club, and it's called Howl at the Moon. And it's so fun. And as a DJ, you can appreciate this. It's a bit of a different than like a regular DJ scene.
There's a place called that a few blocks away from my house right here.
Really? Okay, so this is how they're set up. You tell me if this one, maybe it's like actually, I don't know, more than one. It seems like kind of a hole in the wall. But there's a band that plays live on stage, and you...
On the wall.
Yeah? Yeah. And then you give them a tip, and you write down whatever song you want them to play, and then they'll play like pretty much anything that you want them to play. And it's freaking people go ape shit.
That's what I do. I was going to work there right before all this went down. Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, so good times. Have you ever been to Canada? I got to ask you that question. Have you ever been to Toronto?
I haven't. I want to. I can go now because the DUI I had got expired after 10 years. But that was just for weed. I don't know if that would have mattered. But my brother tried to go to Canada. He has a DUI for alcohol. And him and his boys went up to Canada, and they drove up there, ran a car and all that. And he got turned down because he had a DUI. So they told him like, oh, a DUI is a serious offense in Canada. You can't come in. So that is crazy. I feel Canada treats the US like how the US treats Mexico.
Yeah.
They don't let us come in easily. Like I heard about more than one person like off criminal backgrounds. They don't let you in. So I should be good now though, like I have, like that was so long ago, but I've never been up there. Like I heard like a lot of people tell me stories that they want to move up there, like for so many reasons. One thing I've always been curious of, in the fucking South Park movie, they made like a US war against Canada. So absurd. Like you don't hear of Canada having any like wars or like military activity or any of that. Like, am I wrong? Like, what's like the military like war like?
No, we're like Sweden. We're pretty neutral.
That's the way to be. In those cold places, no one cares. They just, go up there and chill. No one really wants to go bother them. It's like, oh, whatever, they're chilling.
I mean, I don't think we look at ourselves like as that chill, but I could see why most people would see us that way, because we don't really engage in, like, when it comes to military compared to the US, I mean, we don't spend very much of our money in military like the US does, you know, just like they're like 11% of GDP, we're like 3%. You know, we're not a huge, I mean, we're not the superpower either.
Is that because you're so connected to the UK that they kind of look out for you so you can kind of just like live in harmony? Or
I don't think so. Like, I feel like it's funny because we're part of the British monarchy, but I don't feel like we're super connected with like the UK or anything. Like, there's not some, I mean, yeah, not the Queen herself anymore, but like they come over and visit and do their little tours that we pay for.
She's on the Canadian money, the Queen, right?
Of course she is. Our Monopoly money. Yeah, the Queen is on our money. I mean, we are part of the British monarchy, but like, she's just a figurehead. I mean, we don't really, I wouldn't say we have a lot of ties with the UK and the way that they're run by any means. But our parliaments and our government structures are pretty much identical in the way it's set up. I guess that's where we're similar, but totally independent.
I mean, the US and Canada is so similar. The US has their nose in every country in the world. Honestly, Trump wants to end that shit and bring all the troops back and stop worrying about other places and worry about here first, and then worry about other places. You know, you have to take care of your own first. And a lot of people are realizing that. And he's going to get elected again. I mean, I hope he does, but just because I hope for the best. That's it. I don't like him personally, but it just is what it is. But I feel like we can have that, you know, like the way you guys live. Like, when was the last time Canada was at war?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I can't, like, I mean, I know, well, we've gone to Iraq and like with supporting the US and all the troops and stuff, like Canadians have been there in Afghanistan and all that stuff. But I mean, we were more of a support, not leading the charge by any means. And we're more on that like UN peace side of things and trying to like keep things, you know, happy. We're definitely not an engaging group. We're not, like, from everything I know, and I'm somewhat into politics myself, it's definitely not something that we don't tend to go out and engage in those things, but we definitely support like the US and all those things. Like after 9/11, when everything happened, I don't know how old you are, but I was in university when that happened. And, you know, we supported the US when they did go after 9/11 in New York.
Where were you?
I was, where was I actually? I remember I was sitting at home, I was getting ready to go to class, and my mother called me because it was after the, I think the first Twin Tower was hit. And then, so my mother called me, she said, turn on the news. So I turned on the news and I literally watched as the second tower was hit live. And she's like, I don't know what the fuck's happening. And she worked in downtown Toronto at the time, and everything in downtown Toronto got shut down. Because shortly after that second tower was hit, they realized that this wasn't an accident. Because the first plane that hit, they were like, oh my God, like this is a crazy accident that happened. Like they thought it was just some rogue plane or something malfunction. Like people didn't think when the first plane hit that it was what it was. You know, it was too early to say. And when the second plane hit, and my mom was getting that, everybody was starting to have chatter like, this is intentional, that this is really happening. So Toronto got shut down. Everybody got sent out of Toronto, out of all of the tall buildings, because they didn't know what was happening. Air traffic was shut down. I was like, do I go to class? I don't even know what I'm supposed to do right now. Like we were literally like in this state of panic when that happened, because we didn't know what was happening here. So I went to class thinking I would go to class, but then we all ended up sitting in this, it was called the Sanctuary, where they had the big TV screen on. And we just sat there and watched in horror as like this was unfolding, and watching those towers collapse. Like it was such a sense of like, I don't even know how to explain it.
It's surreal.
Like this is not happening. Like you see this shit in the movies. This shit doesn't happen. And even now, like I was watching Friends because why not? And their opening scene always shows the Twin Towers. And it's just like, holy fucking shit. I remember watching them go down. And it's bizarre. Like it's still this just weird, like before and after of that moment in history. Everything changed. And that's kind of what's happening now with COVID.
Yeah. Basically the world will never be the same. I hope the world becomes better, because we're going to be so on top of like a lot more things, like just basically just, I feel like we're going to have like pandemic crisis relief or like set up. We're going to be ready if something like this happens again. You know, we know how to handle it now. So I feel like things will get good. It's going to take some time, but it fucking sucks. As far as 9/11 goes, it was actually my first day of middle school.
Oh my God. Well, we just showed our age difference.
Born 89, it was my first day of middle school. I was like 12, and yeah, it was crazy. Like, it's your first day of middle school. That's like a big leap from elementary school. And it's like I go to school and deal with that for the first day. And it was kind of crazy. And
did you have anyone personally affected by it, by being from New York?
No, not really. I had a lot of other personal things happen to me like through my life. So, you know, like just family stuff. My father died when I was young, not too long after that. So I was dealing with my own stuff. I got spared from that, but, you know, a lot of other people didn't. And just even like the ongoing effects of like the debris from all the buildings, and it fucked a lot of people up. Cancer, like just like the smoke and all the shit from the buildings. It was crazy. Is there like any, like, I don't hear about any terrorism in Canada. Does that happen at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of, you know, it's not a lot when you can't actually think of anything. Like, for example, I don't know if you count it as terrorism. I mean, we don't, but like we have a bunch of Walmarts that just got lit on fire because of the whole anti-maskers, which I guess is kind of like an act of terrorism in its own little way, but in a very small way.
What are the gun laws?
Oh, that was actually, I wanted to ask you guys about that. So in Canada, it's very, very different than the US when it comes to gun laws. So there's no right to bear arms here. And I think that's one of the major differences between Canada and the US. So like, what's interesting, and I found this a really interesting fact because of being from Northern Ontario, but we actually have more guns per capita than I think the US, like that's actually like registered, but that's for hunting. So like when it comes to a hunting license, you have to get a gun license and all that kind of stuff. But like my grandfather had like 50 guns and they're all hunting, like all for hunting. But we don't get like handguns or any of like, you can't buy a machine gun at Walmart here. You can't really get a handgun. And the laws to like get an ability to have a gun, like as a personal weapon, like it's freaking jumping through hoops. Like if you want to go somewhere, let's say you have a handgun.
Is there a need?
You would have to. No,
right?
No.
Who cares, you know?
But it's interesting because like so it's changing here. Like we're having a lot more gun violence in the last year. And I would say I've noticed that because I never grew up with any of it. So now all of a sudden we're hearing, oh, this shooting. And I'm like, where the fuck are they getting these guns from? Because to have a handgun in Canada is like almost impossible. Like it's really, really hard to get a license for a handgun. And if you want to put it in your car, you have to have a permit. You have to go like register everything. So there's a lot of illegal weapons coming into the country now. And we are seeing a lot more of it than we ever have in the past. So it's changing. It is changing here.
What's the drug trade situation like up there? Like this way we get stuff from Mexico, does it like go through the US and go up there, or is it like over planes? You know much about that? And
you know, I know that we have a lot of cocaine, and then we also have a lot of the what's the one that fentanyl. We have a lot of problems with fentanyl as well, which I think everybody does. but I don't know where it comes from. Like, from all I know, it comes from the US.
You're saying everyone does fentanyl in Canada?
Not everyone. I said a lot of, like, it's where everyone's hearing about it. You know, it's one of those topics that comes up quite often. So it's not that there's, I feel like fentanyl slipped in a lot of things. So what ends up happening is you hear of a lot of people who didn't know that they were taking it and then overdose on it because it was in something else. So we are seeing a lot of fentanyl cases. But yeah, like I don't really know where it comes from, like at all. Like I feel like that's not even a topic of conversation.
Long story short, that's how my boy died, Marty Marr, co-creator.
Was it fentanyl?
I don't know, but he got something off someone, and I would know him. He would party, but he would never do too much. And basically, whoever sold it to him cut it with fentanyl. You don't cut coke with fentanyl, and it basically killed 5 people within 48 hours. So he was one of them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of asshole people, you know. That's why, I just, weed is all I need. I don't fuck with all that other shit.
And it's
no point.
It's scary though. It's like, I feel like, the fentanyl situation is, it kind of just seemed like, I remember oxys were a big thing, but I don't remember people dying from oxys the way that they died from fentanyl. And now fentanyl is like the thing that's killing everybody. And I get it, like, because it takes so little to cause damage or to kill you. But it's like, isn't that created by a pharmaceutical company? So like, why did they get rid of oxys if fentanyl's worse and that's what replaced it? That's where I'm like, whoa, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's the thing. I had an epidural in my lower back from like a car accident like last year, and basically yesterday this happened, and they tried to put me to sleep, but I didn't let them, because last time they gave me anesthesia and put me to sleep, it was the worst burning feeling ever. But they basically did a local, and I guess they put fentanyl in my back. They shot it in there, and yeah, I was pretty like just out of it the whole day. I got home and just passed out. Crazy as shit, fucked me up. Like, but their doctors, they did it for legit medical reasons. You know, they know how to handle like the right amount. Like, you know, you fuck up on a girl, you kill someone easily. You know, but
yeah.
I was kind of interested in was like the whole tax situation in Canada. Like, does that differ from the US at all? I don't know if you know how it is here, but
no. The which situation? Sorry, you cut out.
As far as like taxes go.
Oh, taxes. I mean,
do certain people get
pay your 13% each?
Is there slightly more taxes because like the healthcare thing, like, you know, in certain perks? Like, how is it out there? Is it pretty much the same thing as out here, or I don't know if you know how.
No, actually,
you've been to probably more major cities than I have. Two major cities I've been to, New York City and Philadelphia, and I mean, you want to count Stamford, Connecticut as a major city? That's it.
Nope.
Oh, so 2 cities.
More US than you are. Well,
a lot of Canadian people are. I don't even. I live in the center of the world, New York City, and I don't watch TV, but everyone else watches all this shit. Is there any benefit behind that, though?
Well, it's different. Like, I think we pay a lot more in taxes here from everything that I understand, but I mean, we do have healthcare. Like, I don't worry. Okay, you just said that you had an epidural. How much did that cost you? Nothing,
because I was in a no-fault car accident, so it's on them to pay everything. And yeah, so kind of.
That's good, I guess, in that situation. But do you know how much it would have cost you if you had to pay?
probably like 3,000, 2,000.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even think about that. And I guess that's the difference is like when I have to go to the doctor or like when I had my son, because I have a son and I never once ever thought about how much that would cost because I've already paid for it in my taxes. So you don't pay for anything when you go to the hospital to have a baby. You know, that's all covered under OHIP, which is the Ontario Health Insurance Plan. And that's every province has their own, but it's all through the government. And we pay a lot of taxes to have that. Whereas I noticed in the US, like there are certain places that people go, I think it's like Pennsylvania or something where it has like no tax or such low tax that like, it's so crazy because people will travel to certain spots in the US and go shopping because there's no taxes, but their roads are falling apart.
Yeah, that's how it is. Like I've actually been looking at land in the US, like try to find like maybe like an acre or two of land and just basically it could be in the middle of nowhere. I really don't care, but I'll own the land and little by little I could just start building a house because I have like a lot of construction experience and I'm an artist, you know. I kind of want to build a house. Fuck buying a house. I buy land. You know, I know how to build one. Like why not, you know? So yeah, I mean, I'm very like city based, but kind of want to get out there, you know. Like Alaska seems awesome. Like Canada always looked like they were between the United States, just being like in the middle of like the mainland US and like Alaska. Like what's your like relationship with Alaska? Like is Canada?
None. I don't know anything about Alaska. All I know is that people get in shit because they try to drive through Canada to get there and forget that you can't have a gun in the car.
So I guess if you drive through Canada, where you're like, oh, I'm just going to Alaska. Like this is my country. I just need to cut through your country to get to the other part of mine. Does that go like?
The funny thing is, I feel like you seem to think Canada is like a little state, and landmass wise, we're I think actually larger than the US.
Huge, not occupied land.
Yeah,
it's
not all of it, but I mean, to get from like Toronto to Alaska would take me over a week. Like driving, it would take a very long time. Flying is still like 5 or 6 hours. Like I could go to the UK in the same time that I could go to Alaska. I guess that's where you have to think about it too, right? Like from Toronto, and also I love how people always think that we're so like north, but yet we have like like where I am is actually more south than like Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a big country. Big. Do you speak French at all?
No. It's no. We it's not like mandatory.
You have the boot thing a little bit. I noticed.
I don't have the boot thing. It's about.
See what I mean? You just said it, but it wasn't
Did not.
But you didn't say it the way we said it. I know that.
Well, okay. I want to hear you say. Okay, I'm not even gonna say it because I don't want you to think of how I say it. So how do you say the front entranceway? I'm gonna call it a vestibule, but it's spelled with an F. Foyer. How do you say it? Go.
Foyer.
No.
What do you say?
It's foyer. It's French.
Yeah, it's French. Yeah, we're you guys are French influenced. We're like English, but Spanish influenced, I guess.
Do you learn Spanish? Is that requirement? Like we have to learn French, but we don't retain any of it.
That's how it is here because it's just so like overwhelmingly all over. You know, it's just like a plus if you know it.
Mm-hmm.
I fucked up with Spanish. Like that was like my worst subject like ever.
Oh, same with French. I remember like je m'appelle and comme ci comme ça, and that's like it. That's all I remember. It's like my name is, and I don't know, this or that. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I could get around, you know, like on Spanish. Like, if someone knows no English, I could, like, you know, deal with them. Like, I know enough to, like, know that. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like at some point it's just all going to be one language. You know, English is kind of taking over for the most part. But
I mean, you have to know English, no matter where you are in the world. English was going to get you everywhere, right? Ultimately. And
I want to know other languages, but it just takes so long. The only way I could do that is by, like, living in another country for, like, at least a month, and I'll, like, learn quick.
yeah, it's funny. So, like, I wasn't born in Canada, which I feel like is everybody's story in Canada, is that we're not, like, everybody's an immigrant in some way. And I actually am, like, Polish is my background. And my mom speaks fluent Polish and my family's in Poland. And when I go there and I immerse in it, I start speaking Polish again, but I lose it so fast when I don't speak it here. And I feel like that's, like you said, if you really want to be immersed in language, whether it's French, Spanish, Polish, German, whatever, you have to be living it, like, every single day. Like, it can't just be like a part-time thing. Or it's your mother tongue.
And the more you speak it, the more you, like, learn and don't forget. The less you speak, you actually forget. And, like, you know, you can know a language fully, but if you don't speak it, you're not around it, you don't comprehend it, it'll just kind of slip away. You know, my father knew how to speak Italian because his grandparents didn't know how to speak English. That's all he spoke to them in. But my mom isn't Italian, so he didn't speak to her in that. And us, the kids, never learned. So happens a lot. If I was, like, around relatives like my father was, who didn't speak English, like, I'd have the grasp of, like, some language. But yeah, haven't been fortunate enough to, like, know that. Like, it's probably cool, like, living in a non-English speaking country and learning English, because I feel like for the sake of the media in Hollywood and the US and English blown up all over the whole world, it's just so much of a benefit in so many ways, just knowing the language, you know.
Agreed. I have a funny question for you.
Yeah.
Every time I go to the States and I go to order an iced tea, they give me this shit that tastes like actual cold tea. What is up with that?
How does it taste where you in Canada? Do they send you different ice?
Yes, it's actually different. This is, like, one of the weird, silly, bizarre things. In Canada, when you ask for an iced tea, it's sweetened. I would never even be able to get an iced tea that doesn't have sweetener in it in Canada. That's not a thing.
So it does have sweetener.
Yeah, it's always sweetened. So when I go to, like, if I go to McDonald's and I order, I don't really go to McDonald's. I don't know why I'm using this example, but if I go to McDonald's and I order an iced tea, it's like Nestea iced tea. But whenever, like, I've gone, so in the US, I've gone to Cracker Barrel, and I remember, is it Cracker Barrel? Cracker Barrel? I don't know how to say it. I've gone there and I order iced tea and I get this, like, literally cold tea. It's so gross.
Any other places? Because I've never been there, and I good stuff. Just how you get, but just go get.
No, I can't think of anything else.
But
so funny. That was just, like, one of those, like, funny little things where I'm like, and then also, so I have, like, family that lives in Minnesota, however you like to say it, and they're not allowed to have it's a chocolate egg thing that we have. And it's, oh my goodness, I can't remember what it's called right now. It's so funny. It's, like, illegal in the US because it has a little toy in it. And they say that it's, like, dangerous. And I'm like, but you can sell a gun at Walmart. But you're not allowed to have a chocolate with a toy in it.
oh my God. I mean, I know what you're talking about. Like, it's like a choking hazard or whatever. But the gun thing, it's like, if you're good to have a gun, have a gun. Like, a lot of people have it for protection. That's why, like, so many Americans, like, love the fact of having a gun, because they feel safe. Most people aren't violent. They just want to feel safe towards the people who are violent. But there is maniacs buying guns and doing dumb shit with them, you know, and
That's so. I guess that's where our perspective is different. That's a good question. I know I went from the toy thing, but why do Americans feel, I guess, why do you feel so unsafe that you need a gun? I think that's maybe the question, because I would never think that I need a gun to feel safe. I mean, that's what the police are for.
well, this is what a lot of people look at as the best country in the world. People come here from all over, and people want to live the American dream at any cost. And sometimes people are so hungry, and people have these egos, and the ego helps them achieve the dreams, but it also takes over their fucking soul in the process. And people get out of character and find themselves in situations that they're like, fuck, what did I just put myself into? And there's so much crazy people. There's a lot of bad shit out here. Like, I grew up through some horrors, you know, like I feel blessed to be here and fine and happy and healthy, doing, you know, like productive stuff like this, you know, but I have seen like a lot of bad stuff, you know, like where I live, like where I'm from, it's not really too pleasant out here, but I'm working on it. I'm like always trying to get further in life, you know. How's it like where you live? Like, you live in a house, or like you said you live in?
Yeah, I live in the country, so I mean, our community it's small, so everybody knows everybody, and I mean, the most things we have is like teenagers that decide they're bored of breaking into clubs. You know, like, it's really minor. Like, we don't deal with a lot of that, but even, you know, in the bigger cities around me, I mean, violence is so minimal. Like, it's never been something I've been worried about. I've never felt fearful of that. I mean, we had, you know, somebody was shot recently that we actually know through friends, and he died. And it was kind of like shocking, because that doesn't happen here. So everybody's like, I can't believe that happened here. I think that's more of where we're at right now, is that there is a bit of a shift with some of the crime that is happening, but overall, I've never in my lifetime ever been like, oh, I'm scared and I feel like I need a gun to protect myself. I've never, you know, the most thing I've ever done is, oh, I'm walking, you know, in this street that feels like a little sketchy, and I put my keys between my fingers. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I got my little weapon. I mean, that's like kind of the most of it. I've never felt that fear.
I mean, for the most part, I feel like Canada is a pretty prosperous country. Like, I mean, like, it's pretty good up there.
Yeah, I mean, I have no complaints.
Yeah, that's why they don't want us Americans coming up.
Build a wall! Build a wall!
Funny, South Park did a parody off it where they were keeping Americans out from coming in Canada, and like the prime minister of Canada like looked like Trump. It was basically like Trump like parody, and it was like basically like a whole joke of them treating us like how we treat Mexico. But
I think that's a very fair parody. I do, but I mean, like, one of my best friends is from Philly.
You still want to pass Trump, but Canada does that. They don't let people in easy. You think, what if Canada was here and had the Mexican border? They would be doing the same thing.
I don't think we'd be building a wall, because we wouldn't spend the money on that.
They'd take the wall down.
Canada would, yeah. You know what though? Canada sees immigration very differently than the US. And I think that's one of the main things too, is like, it was kind of right in our early conversation, which may or may not be part of our show today, but that whole immigration thing, whereas Canada definitely welcomes immigration and we thrive on immigration, but there's strong policies in place so that immigration happens correctly. And I think that most people I know are form of immigrants. I'm first generation, my husband's second generation, and then, you know, everything in between, like right up to been here their whole lives. But I definitely think that Canada's like immigration policies are so different. And we also take refugees in. You know, if people are escaping on a boat or something and it comes into a port, we don't turn them away. You know, they have landed refugee status, and then we work at that point to figure out what to do for them. That, I think, is a very big difference in our policies from like the US policy to Canadian policy. Is US is like, keep everybody out, have it all, like make America great again. Everything's about America. But I think Canada's a little bit more like, no, we need to integrate with everybody because we don't live in that world anymore. We can't live in a bubble. We're all interconnected.
They sell you guys though, but I feel like Trump isn't really he's not ultimately against immigration. He's against illegal immigration. So,
but I think Canada, they don't look at it as like illegal immigration necessarily. It's like, if you're running away from a country like what's happening in Syria, and your country is bombed and your country has nothing left and you've escaped and you've managed to get here, then you're a landed refugee and they will work with you so that you can stay here. They don't just send you back, you know, to like a war-torn country. And I think that's the difference, is like, I feel like Canada as a country, we're a lot more compassionate to the situations that people are coming out of. And even though it could be like illegal in the sense of they don't have legal status to be here, they can apply to still be here. They don't get kicked out right away. They don't turn them away at the border. They don't lock them up. They don't get arrested, but they still will have to go through, you know, trying to stay here. And they do get sent back. I know people who have been here for 5 years and they don't get their landed status and they do have to find somewhere else to live.
Well, you know what? The more Canada stays a great place to live, and the more other people see that, they're going to start to eventually flood Canada to the point where it's going to become an issue for Canada. And they're going to start realizing we got to do something about this.
It's cold.
It can become like a real issue once it gets overwhelmingly out of control. That's how it's gotten in the U.S. You know?
But you know what? There's one big fundamental difference, I think, that people forget. And I know this because we have a lot of Syrians that are here now. And Canada's really, really expensive. So when it comes to living, a lot of people, what they're struggling with when they come to Canada is the affordability of living in Canada. So I think the U.S. has more opportunities for affordable living versus the Canada, where it's really, really expensive. And like we have people that we know that has come here from Syria, not because they wanted to, but because their country is completely war-torn and they want to go back. Like whether it's Lebanon or Syria, eventually one day when it's safe, they want to go back. They never wanted to leave. And a big part of that is it's so expensive here. And they're just like this, like, I don't know how you people do it. Like everything's so expensive. And I think that's a big part of what controls some of it, is that you can't necessarily build a really good life here without a higher level of education, a good quality job. I mean, the average house price, just to give you context, is like $1 million, where like my area, and I'm not in Toronto. Toronto is like way more than that. Some of the most expensive real estate here, and then plus taxes, right? So like New York is super expensive. Everybody knows that New York is one of the most expensive cities in the entire world. But you don't have to live in New York City. You could live in New York State somewhere and pay like a fraction of that. Whereas it's not really like that here. It's expensive everywhere.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think is the difference between being rich in the US and being rich in Canada? Do you think it's like a happier life to be rich in the US? Is that why it's so much more popular and so much people like want to be here more? Or can you do more? Like, are there any beaches in Canada?
Yeah, of course. Vancouver is like the area that you want to be in. But yeah, we have beaches here. I mean, we have the Great Lakes, right? There's lots and lots of beaches. We just can't use them all the time because it gets a little colder. But when it comes to rich in the US, that's a really good point. I feel like one thing that my personal thought is like, if you have wealth in the US, you are afforded a lot more than you would be in Canada with the same wealth. And I say that because if I'm wealthy in the United States and I have cancer, let's say I have cancer and I'm wealthy in the United States, I can go and pay for all my medical treatments. I can get treated right away. I don't have to wait for anything. I don't have to wait in line. I mean, my money affords me privilege if I was in the United States. But here in Canada, it doesn't matter how freaking wealthy you are. If I have cancer, I'm still on a waiting list. I can't buy my way to the front of the line.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I just had to, my iguana was trying to climb out my window. I had to, but yeah, basically, another thing I was going to ask you, are there any like pets in Canada that are like unpopular to like other places? People have like baby polar bears and shit.
Polar bears are on the extinction list.
I know, I'm just...
Where do you think I live in my igloo? Do you think I live in my igloo? My house is an igloo.
My friend, like when I basically, because me and my friend, like actually I read your email when he was here with me. Like we listened to like one of your episodes and we're like, yo, this girl's from Canada, Community Cactus. This should be the community igloo.
Yeah, well, I think that... Okay, well, there is... You watch this... I'm laughing because, like, we know that the U.S. has that stereotype about us, and we think it's really funny because, like, literally igloos don't exist anywhere in, like, the normal, like, cities. You have to be in, like, Nunavut to see that. But you're like, what the fuck's Nunavut?
Yeah, that's where it is, right? That's great.
Not close, by the way.
What, the other one was Greenland?
That's not part of Canada.
No, but is that where the igloos are?
I don't know. I think about Greenland. Maybe. It's icy, so I'm going to say maybe. But I mean, I don't think like...
Look, it's okay to live in an igloo.
I've never seen an igloo. Does that answer the question? I have never seen or witnessed an igloo. It's funny too because did you ever watch I know you're a little younger than me, but Jay Leno, when he had his talk show at night, he used to do this, like he would ask random people on the street questions and like he would ask them about Canada and they always said the stupidest things. It was so funny. So you're just like, why do you guys like not know anything about us? I do not live in an igloo. I don't ski to work. Guess what? We have summer. Cactuses can live here.
Who do you think is like the biggest celebrity in Canada?
Justin Bieber.
It's him, right?
Yeah. Oh, Drake too. I mean, Drake. So I live by both of them. So there we go.
Hip hop artists, right?
Yeah.
Do you live in Toronto?
No, I live outside of Toronto, but I'm probably about the same distance from both of their houses.
It's basically, I always looked at Canada like if I ever flee the US, like if I was on the run and had to leave the country, like in Canada, the closest place, I'm going to Toronto, closest thing to New York, you know?
Yep.
True, it basically is. Is there like subways and all that out there?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I have been to New York City, so I can tell you, you would be like super disappointed with our subway system. It is terrible. It basically, in Toronto, it's like a U. It kind of like U's around the city. And we have, I think, 3 lines that run all of Toronto. When you think about like 6 million people, the subway system is shit. So you have to take the subway and then take a bus. Like you can't actually get everywhere on a subway in Toronto. I find like our system for that in Toronto, I mean, New York has got it. Like traveling in New York is so easy, like just the layout of the whole city. Like you don't have to be from there to like figure out how to get from point A to point B. It's simple. And you can jump on the subway and you can get there. And it's really, really easy to navigate. In Toronto, like good fucking luck. You need a master's.
Oh my God. I mean, like over here in New York, there's like so many train lines. I mean, you've been here, you know, there's like I don't even know how many. There's like 30, over 30. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like night and day. Like your system, the city was built really, really well. Like you guys, I mean, kudos to the Americans that built New York City because it's fucking fantastic. Nothing here makes sense.
Right now, you can't even go in a bar.
I know. I can't imagine living in New York City right now. Like, for me, it's fine. I live in the country. I've got lots of space. So the things you can do, which is be in your own home and be in your bubble, is totally fine. But, like, if you're in a major city, like, I even think people in Toronto, people in New York, like, you're in these tiny-ass apartments and you can't, like, the reason you live there for a lot of people is for what's available to you. And you can't even access anything that's available. You're a DJ. You can't DJ. Like, that's freaking crazy right now.
Yeah, I mean, I still do what I gotta do. You know, like we make moves out here. Like we take risks. Like there could be like big fines if like things go wrong, but someone gotta save the dance floor. You know, it's that is very, very much in danger, and a lot of people feel the same way I do. You know, I know you like partying time to time. Like I heard that episode you were talking about like clubbing and like all this stuff. So yeah.
I miss it. Like, I mean, I don't go out as much as like just age thing too, life, marriage, children. Like you don't do that as much, but I still love it. And it's funny that you bring that up because I was just thinking, and you can appreciate this as a DJ, like, will we get to go out and like go dancing and, you know, just getting all dressed up and going out and having a few drinks with friends and getting, you know, shit-faced on the dance floor and just having fun, like letting loose.
No masks, like just
no
like
masks. Yeah, like wear lipstick and actually be like see your face, like see when, you know, if a guy smiles at you or you smile at him. Not that I'm single, but just like that whole like that personal connection. And you know, whether you're single or you're not single, just going out and seeing people and smiling and not being scared of people. Like I went to a client meeting the other day and I went to go shake his hand and then I had to do the awkward, like, oh, wait, sorry. Like, I can't even shake your hand. Like, I can't be nice anymore.
So how is like everything with the COVID impact like up there?
It's terrible.
Bad?
I mean, our numbers are increasing. I mean, we're in a second wave. We're compared to the US, I mean, we're doing much better numbers wise. But we are in a second wave here. So Toronto, for example, is starting shutdowns again. So we are getting more lockdowns and it sucks. A lot of really good companies that it breaks my heart. They're not surviving. Restaurants aren't surviving. Bars. We just had this great wedding venue that was very, very popular that just shut down because they can't do their jobs. They can't host events, meaning they can't make money, but they got to pay rent, you know? So yeah, it's the devastation. I think we're not even on the tip of it yet. Like, I mean, we're still in the pandemic, but I think and you're gonna see that where you are probably even more than here, the fallout from it is gonna continue for such a long time, and it's gonna be terrible.
So if they came out with the vaccine tomorrow, are you taking it?
No.
I mean, I feel like that might be the only way things go back to normal. Might be what we're doing.
Would you take it?
Because if you really want the world to be how it was before, think about it. We take vaccines for other shit. You know, like how many times?
Oh, and I would eventually, don't get me wrong. But not like, what I'm worried about is like that first group that takes it. Like, was it really tested enough? Are we like pushing this through too fast? It's more just like, is it really ready? I think that's where my skepticism comes in, because if you look at the history of vaccines, they generally take a fuck ton longer than they're doing this one. So I'm just more like, is it really ready? Like, what are you putting in us? Like, are we sure it's not going to hurt us?
Oh, well, I feel like what they should do is give it to the people who are most vulnerable.
Yes.
The sicker people. Give it to them, the people who are scared and fucking it up for the young, healthy people who want to live in the world and make money and live their lives. It's bullshit. I'm really like so over all this shit, you know, and it's like, it is what it is, you know. If I'm not doing one thing in my life, it's another, you know. And
Yeah, I hear you.
speaking about all these things, it's definitely like real important. What's basically the situation with like PC culture up there? Because I really fucking hate it. It's so pathetic. It's so just they're just so pussy with everything. Like they want to cancel everything. Everyone's so sensitive over dumb shit and things that are good and have good quality. People want to just give a hard time.
We're having that big time too, and I think that we're on the same page. Like, I think you're seeing the same thing we're seeing, and it's this. It doesn't matter what you say right now. You're terrified that you're going to piss somebody off. I mean, we've got.
Are there any like examples you know from up there?
Pardon?
Any good examples from up there? Like any like?
Yeah, actually, there's a really good example. There's so. I know you're probably like, ooh, what? But there's this popular talk show out of Toronto called The Social. And so there's that. And then there's another one called E-Talk. And just, I mean, whatever. There's a bunch of different hosts on them. And then the one host's wife has another show. So there's all these three shows that are kind of all connected through people that work on all of them. So this one guy's wife, who has a show, made a comment behind closed door in private to some woman, and that woman took it offensively. But basically, I think what the matter of fact is, this guy's wife's a bitch. She's just one of those probably super popular, like doesn't give a shit. She just didn't care about this person and was like, fuck you, I'm not helping you. You know, I'm not helping your business. She wasn't interested in working with her, basically. So it shouldn't be a big deal, right? Like, this girl doesn't like that girl, doesn't want to work with her, should be end of story. Well, that girl's connected to a host on The Social, and it's the same company that owns all three of these shows, which is why I brought it up. It's the same network. So this woman that she pissed off in an email came to light about it and basically got her fired. So her show got canceled. They canceled it because she got pissed off at this girl. The guy who was on two of the shows, her husband, lost his job because of his wife's comment to a girl who got pissed off, and now cannot be on this other show. And then this other woman, it's apparently her niece, which is how it all kind of ties together. Her niece is the one who got pissed off and now has gotten to, like, basically a husband and wife team who are very successful in the media social world, you know, having TV shows and hosting E-Talk and being on The Social. They've lost everything. Like, when it comes to their online presence, like being a part of TV, they all got canceled because his wife pissed off another girl and she had a little bit of power. And she basically stood on her soapbox and said, it got into some issues that I don't even want to talk about because that's like a whole other day and I have to go pick up my kid in 10 minutes. But basically, it was, she pissed somebody off and she got canceled. And then her husband got canceled. I'm like, fuck, he didn't even do anything. And he's getting canceled too. So this does happen.
What do you think, like, the biggest, like, case of U.S. cancel culture is?
Oh, well, I mean, pardon?
Currently, like, of your knowledge, like, the biggest, like, U.S. thing that you know of. Is there anything? I know of something.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into the big one because I feel like we all know what that one is, but I can't think of, I mean, there's lots of little things like, well, the Aunt Jemima, can't have that anymore. Canceled. Troll dolls, canceled because of a button.
It's ridiculous. People need to grow the fuck up. Get over it. Like,
I know. And like, I think, and that's where we have so much stuff in Canada too, like with our historical political figures, and they're like taking down the statues, and it's kind of the same thing that's happening there. And I'm just like, we don't even have time I think we need to do another episode just on that, because in Canada we have a really blind, like, people are being very blind to the fact that in Canada, our history is the Indigenous culture. That's the people who have really greatly suffered in Canada, and we're not talking about it. And I'm not saying that minorities don't matter. They absolutely do matter, but there's just so much more of it in Canada, historically speaking. And that's where a lot of this cancel culture comes from, is a lot of the race stuff, right? So I get it, but at the same time, there's such a big picture and we're looking at a very small microscope of it. And I feel like there's a bigger discussion that's not happening. And in Canada, it's different. You know, we have a different history. We have an Indigenous history. We have the Chinese who made our railroad history. Like, there's a lot of history that we're not talking about that's a real problem. And I feel like people are quick to take a headline and then cancel something because of it without actually looking at the facts behind it.
Well, I'm definitely for all the Indigenous North Americans. I have to, actually, it's in my blood, so I hear you there, you know. But people really are too sensitive. People, like, as you see, I'm a very comedic person. People just don't know how to take a joke sometimes. I remember, like, back in the day when we were younger, things weren't like that. And now, you grow up, you get older, you see people getting so sensitive and quality getting toned down just so it could, like, sell better. Like, did you see, like, this last Star Wars trilogy? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's what the world has come to. But
I know. Well, you look at Seinfeld, it's just a comedy show from back in the day. 90% of what they made fun of, you could never do today. Like, you just couldn't make jokes like that. I mean, everything is so watered down.
And the biggest case of cancel culture is really how they're trying to cancel Trump. Like, they don't like how he talks. I agree with them. But put someone better against him. Until then, like, you know, he's going to get the next 4 years. It is what it is. But I feel like Andrew Yang should definitely get the next one. He should be the next president. That's who I'm going to push as the next person. But I'm still going to build that plan. What would I do for the country? Do the same thing for Canada. Build like a little strategy that you think work better, that you propose to the leader there, you know. But
Agreed. I do have to run though, and I hate to cut it off because this conversation is great.
But we'll have the next one next time. It was definitely like great talking and everything. One last question. What do you think is like the best way the Canadian can like show their patriotism?
In Canada, I feel like we're not the most patriot people. I'm not gonna lie, but a good round of hockey with your comrades.
I feel you. Here, it's just so many things. I can't even answer that question. Just watch TV. We'll see.
Yeah.
It was definitely great talking. We gotta do this again. I think I have all this recorded over here, so probably be able to like put this out, like talk to you, send you a draft or whatever. And yeah, we gotta do this again soon. It was great.
I think we definitely, because I mean, definitely we're going to work out some of the kinks, and if we have any issues with this one, we can probably fill it in with more if we need to, but I know from just, this was great. It was such an easy discussion, and I think it's really interesting. I think there's so much more. We probably could have talked for like 4 hours, to be honest, just about all the different things. So thank you. It was like so much fun, and I'm really excited to do the next one.
It went on like longer than I expected. I'm glad like we got a lot of good stuff down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be good. Look forward to
to the next one. We're gonna rock the podcast world.
I already know.
All right. Have a good one. It was nice meeting you officially.
Definitely. Good night, Community Cactus.
Good night, DJ Luca Knight.
Good night, USA. Good night, Canada. And good night, Planet Earth. Peace.